Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to an episode of I'm editing your pictures because I'm bored in quarantine.
So a couple days ago, I got this wild idea that I should go and edit my Instagram followers' photos. So I went into Photoshop and just compiled some images I've taken in the past and then put them on my Instagram story and asked for people to submit them through my Gmail account.
I'm gonna go look through those, pick out the ones I like, and then I'm gonna edit them in Lightroom.
I got a pretty good number of submissions and I narrowed it down to 10 photos that I really liked.
Okay, so I just got all the photos selected, got all the ones I wanted. I think I like the ones that are a little more artistic leaning, but that doesn't mean like if you submitted your photos of you and your friends or whatever, that doesn't mean I'm not gonna edit those for you. I will definitely get around to that whenever I get a chance after I'm done editing the video. Over the years of just editing in Lightroom, I've learned a lot. I don't claim to be a Lightroom expert or anything along those standards, but I do have a pretty good knowledge in Lightroom, so I'm looking forward to editing these pictures. And I'm not saying that the edits I put on these pictures are the correct edits, but they are the way that I would edit the pictures. Just edit the photo in whatever way you think artistically speaks of who you are, like as a person. So that's what I'm going to kind of go through these. I'm going to look for the emotions in them, and I'm going to try to pull that out in the Lightroom editing process. Let's get down to it.
So I spent the next couple hours editing and realized that I wasn't going to have enough daylight to film the whole video. So I decided to film the rest of the video the next day.
So this first picture we're going to look at, it was a picture submitted by Carlin, and Carlin said, "This picture was taken during a shoot I did over a year ago now. I never really got around to editing the photos, so I'd love to see how you would." With this one, I kind of went for more of a, I don't know, it was more like a Stranger Things type feel. Very similar to if you've ever seen the Childish Gambino, I believe it's the Sweatpants. No, it's not Sweatpants. Oh, it's the Sober music video where when he's in the diner. I think this was taken in a diner, so I wanted to give it kind of that sober Childish Gambino feel. I just thought it was really interesting. Tweak the tone curve. You can kind of see the editing process as I go through here and look at it in Lightroom. But thank you for the submission, Carlin, and really good photo. Really liked it. Okay, so this next photo we're going to look at is from a guy named Eric Miller. Eric said, "This one has a ton of cool lights to mess with. Tweak the global sliders here." And I added a preset. I added one of my old presets. It was called Blue Shadows. And then kind of went down and just started messing with the tone curve until I got all the lighting exactly how I wanted it. Kind of went back and forth. So then I shifted the hue and the saturation and the luminance. Yeah, I wanted to kind of have a teal and orange look to it, but I wasn't exactly sure what kind of look I was going for, so I just kind of went through and just got it until it felt right. So this was the final result, and definitely pleased with it. Definitely happy with the way it came out. Thank you, Eric, for your submission, and let's go on to the next photo. This next photo came from a good friend of mine, Preston. It's a guy walking through a tunnel and on a train tracks. It had a really cool feel to it. I liked the way it looked at the beginning, and I was like, man, I think I can make this picture look really cool. Went into the global sliders, got it where I wanted it to be. I wanted to have a dark feel, so I wanted to start from scratch because I tried a couple presets and I couldn't get a preset to work. So I was like, alright, I'll start from scratch. That's usually where my best work comes from. And so went from scratch and just started messing around until I got everything exactly how I wanted it, going back and forth between the tone curve and the global sliders. So the exposure, contrast, highlights, everything. My main tool here was luminance, and so that made all the colors dark. Ended up being a really good photo. Thank you, Preston. Awesome submission. So the next photo we're going to look at was submitted by a good friend of mine, Erin Ruth Waters. Sent me a picture that she took from Colorado. Sent it to me a while back and asked me to edit it, and I edited it. I put an edit on it in Lightroom on mobile and just kind of went through and just did some basic adjustments, but I wanted to kind of get a little bit more in depth, more tools to use, and I didn't do a whole lot to it. It was already an excellent photo, but whenever I wanted to have that kind of rustic vibe, and I still wanted to have that cool feeling to it, but also a warm feeling at the same time, like a cabin in the woods on like a cold, like a winter's day. So I kind of wanted to shift the yellows and make them have a little bit more of an orange feel to them, so then it has that kind of rustic type feel to it. And then I also wanted to fade it a little bit. That's something I usually do with my photos whenever I'm editing them. And I didn't necessarily like all of the blues down here in the front in the snow, so I wanted to kind of shift that blue to make it a little bit warmer, but also still feel very cold because it's snow. So I made it like not as blue, made it more of a white color. That way it kind of feels a little bit warmer, but it also still looks really cold. It's like it's like a welcoming cold photo. It's really weird, but I really like that. I really like the way it turned out. Thank you for your submission, Aaron Ruth, and on to the next photo. So these next two photos I got, they were a submission from Anna Carol Justice. She sent me these pictures that she took the other day, I believe, and they were in a field. I couldn't find a preset that would work perfectly for it, so I think I went from scratch on this one and just kind of adjusted and made it like a general S curve in the tone curve, and then kind of tweaked it a little bit to where I wanted it to be. Down here in the colors, it was really yellow, really green, and I wanted to have more of like a fall type vibe almost. Not necessarily a fall, but something a little bit more flat. I didn't like all the contrast. It was a little too contrasted for my style. Adjusted the flowers, made them kind of more of an orange color. I also desaturated the greens, and because I really like that desaturated green look, especially if there are a lot of greens in the photo. I did add a little bit of a vignette to it and a little bit of grain into the photo because I thought it needed a little bit. I wanted to kind of have that classic flat, almost film look, and while still being a little bit of extra contrast. So this was the final result, and I was definitely pleased with that. And then the next photo was also from Anna Carol. I really liked the way that the flowers were. It had a really like hipster vibe, and so I really wanted to kind of edit both of those to kind of see what I could do. So I went through, copied the settings from the previous photo to get the colors very similar. Went through with a clarity brush and kind of brushed up on the clarity of the flowers. Yeah, this is pretty much what I came out with. So I really liked it. The tone curve was a little bit different than the last picture, but it was just because I was trying to get the shadows and everything right. This one ended up being a little bit brighter, which I kind of like. So this next photo was submitted from Caleb Powell. Caleb had this really cool photo of him that looked like he was just floating in midair, and I thought it was awesome. I was like, man, I think I can make that really cool. I think I can make it have like an album cover type feel to it. So for this photo, I started with the preset I'd made, fixed the lighting how I wanted it, and it was still a little bit too much in the blues, so I went through to the saturation and kind of desaturated the blues a little bit to make it have more of a, I don't know, an airier feel. I didn't really like the deep blue. I wanted something lighter, something a little fresher. There were some power lines, so I kind of edited those out, and yeah, so I came up with, this was the final product, and I really like the way it turned out. Thank you for the submission, Caleb, and on to the next photo. These next two photos were submitted by Sierra Lynn. First photo had these feet in it that were kind of sitting on a bench, and you could kind of see the feet turned in, so I really liked the vibe of that photo, and I thought it had a really like grunge type feel to it, something like a rock band in the 2007s would put on their album cover, and I don't know, adjusted the exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, just everything to the point where I liked it, and then tweaked the tone curve a little bit, added a few points in there, and went back and forth until I got everything how I wanted it. One thing that I do like to do pretty often is turn up the vibrance and turn down the saturation. It kind of gives it this desaturated yet colorful look that you can get if you balance it correctly. If you do the vibrance and the saturation, you can do that swap, you can go into the white balance section and you can warm it up or cool it down more than you usually would be able to if you just kept the vibrance and saturation the same. This is what I came up with. I really like the final product here, and I think it's awesome. So thank you, Sierra, for this submission, and also the next photo is from Sierra as well. And it was like through a lens. I don't know what this photo was, but it looked really cool. Kind of went through my presets, didn't find one I really liked, so it was another one from scratch. Adjusted the exposure, contrast, and everything, and just got my adjustments how I wanted them. Took me a second to get the vibe right, so then I went back into the global sliders and kind of adjusted those again. Just went back and forth between the tone curve and global sliders like I often do, and kind of had a weird vibe, which was purples and greens in this case. So I was really trying to highlight purples and greens and kind of show that contrast, and so with that fade to it as well. So it gave it like this really cool type feel, and so I really like the way it turned out as well. Thank you for your submission, Sierra, and on to the last photo. So this next photo is from Maria Guay. She sent it to me, and I was like, man, this is my favorite photo that I've received so far, and I really like the vibe to it. I thought it could make it like really airy, make it have like a really cool type feel, make it feel like you're on the beach in the middle of summer. So for this picture, I put on my really airy preset and went to work here. Kind of adjusted the exposure, contrast sliders, those basic general sliders, and then went down to the HSL and kind of got the colors how I wanted it to. Then the major part that pulled this whole photo together was the gradient filters that I added on. So I added a gradient to kind of the beach to brighten it up, and then to the sky to kind of underexpose it. So I wanted to bring out some more detail in the sky while still bringing out the brightness in the beach, and it came out perfectly. I loved everything about it, so it really had a lot of detail in the sky. Thank you, Maria. Excellent photo. Yeah. Thank you guys all for watching this video. Hope you really enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Hope you were able to kind of take home some tips for Lightroom or for editing photos in general. You can find all of these features in most editing apps, but for me, I use Lightroom. Please leave a like on the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't already. Smash that like button if you're into that, and I'll see you guys next time.